I'm not sure about.
All right, we're going
in
live.
terms of, okay.
Go ahead, continue the convo though. Go ahead.
But in terms of lockdown, you mean, or in terms of?
Yeah, I just mean Germany seems to have handled it pretty well.
Yeah, it seems so, but it's also still ridiculous in many instances, like any other country. But it is indeed not that crazy that I thought it would be, or was afraid it would get.
Well, the figures are being revised down quite a bit, aren't they? I mean, I initially thought they would be reasonably low, but I think the CDC just came out with like 0.4%, which is a lot lower than I think a lot of people estimated. Yeah, we'll see, won't we? Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Here we're heavy lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so all right, so welcome everybody. This is the BCH Ignite Builders live stream for this week. This time we're doing it on New York time for everybody in the Americas, from New York to Caracas and everywhere around there. Here with Harry Barber from the Stamp Wallet Project. I was working on it with Shammah Chancellor. Shammah will be on soon. And of course, my co-host, Kusha, and I'm George Donnelly. And so welcome, everybody, and welcome, Harry. Really great to have you on.
Yeah, great to be here.
So, so tell the audience, if you would, real quick, what's Stamp? What's it all about?
So I essentially joined Shay about half a year ago, and he had this it was very coherent idea about how to create this kind of, it's not just a messaging system, it's a little bit more, it's this way of kind of paying for attention. And it's probably the best way to describe it is to describe the problem that it solves. So at the moment, most of our social media services are all kind of centralized, and they're run by Twitter, they're run by Facebook, and the kind of business model there is you sign up for Facebook or you sign up for Twitter, and they essentially, you pay them by giving up your privacy. You say, this is my data, you can use it if you provide me a good service. And the service here, some of the stuff they do is they just, they provide you a nice website, and they also prevent you from getting spammed. You don't see much spam on these services because Facebook essentially just monitor the traffic, just monitor all the traffic. And if they see that, there's huge amounts of messages going, like very similar looking messages going to one person, they'll kind of filter it out. So you're kind of giving up your privacy in return for this kind of protection that these centralized services do. And Stamp is a way of kind of reclaiming the privacy without giving up our spam protection. So we're kind of, instead of paying these services with your data, you instead have this kind of underlying monetary system that happens, which so if you want to spam somebody, you need to if you'd like to spam, you have to essentially pay the recipient. So if they want to advertise to you, they have to pay you, and that prevents this explosion of spam that happens if you don't use these centralized services, which means now that you can run your own email server, you can get off Facebook and still enjoy social services. So that's the kind of ethos that's happening here.
Outstanding. Yeah. So I find it really interesting because it's a pay to message kind of thing, and I have my Stamp open here, so I'm gonna see if I can show that on screen. So here's my Stamp, and I'm talking to Kusha, and yeah, so I have so the setup for me, it was really easy. And it's at a level where it doesn't even use real BCH yet. So I
Yeah.
just had to get some testnet BCH, right?
It's it's super early. We've put it on testnet because it is very early alpha, and it would just be irresponsible at this point. We're still making massive revisions to the protocol, and we're still doing lots of security work and stuff. So we're on the testnet for the foreseeable future anyway. We're moving fast, but yeah, we're sat on the testnet.
So every time I send a message, it costs me. Can I determine how much it costs me? Because I see by default it's 5,000 sats.
Yeah. So you could change that if you want. We've added. We're still tweaking this as well. We're adding a little bit of noise here. So you'd say 5,000, and maybe it'd do a little plus or minus. And we're still working out the wallet. The plus and minus there is to ensure the noise there is kind of privacy measure. If you were sending exactly the same amount of outputs in every transaction, it would be easy to detect who's who or what they're doing. So we add a bit of noise there, but it would be roughly around 100 sats if you sent it then, or more or less.
I see. Okay, and so to add, oh yeah, so here I just clicked on this so I can see Kusha's profile. And basically, it runs off of your BCH address, or for now at least, your BCH testnet address, right?
Yeah, I don't know how technical you'd like to go with this, but essentially this layer 2 system is just built on around Bitcoin Cash, and the address kind of is associated with some metadata, and the metadata in this case is their profile. So you can use your Bitcoin Cash address to look up this metadata, and you kind of grab their profile. And then the relay servers are kind of hanging off that. They're built off that. So yeah, so I don't know if you'd like me to talk about the technical side. We can just continue going through the UI if you'd like.
Yeah, maybe just a little, just so people can get kind of a sense, right, of the functionality. Now, like,
Yeah,
so
sure.
let's say somebody wants to add me, they'll need my BCH test address, right?
Yep.
And then they can click here and they can paste it in and then add me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And the idea is that this gets us to a system where we don't have to worry about spam or central authorities anymore, right? Or at least, like, people, if somebody wants to spam me, they have to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. So this isn't necessarily decentralized. If you were somebody's grandmother, you don't really care about running your own email server. So it's very likely that you could just sign up to somebody else's email server, pay them a few satoshis, and then just get on with it. To open your email account. But if you want to, of course, you could run your own relay server, and it's dead simple. It's like a few lines of you put a few commands in the terminal, and it's up and running. So it's really it's a choice there, and because it's kind of this federated thing, we're not putting stuff on chain. It is a layer 2 solution, so it is very cheap and very fast. But
what about the messages themselves? How encrypted? How secure are these? In what way?
yes, so we are going to we're just in the process of just redoing some of the cryptography, but at the moment it is end-to-end encrypted. So even if you were sending your messages through your grandma was sending her messages through somebody else's relay server, they still wouldn't have access to it. It's just the sender and the recipient. In the future, we want to do a little bit technical here, double ratcheting schemes, just like Signal, and get it very, very, very secure. So even if someone were to break one of the keys and decrypt one of your messages, they wouldn't be able to decrypt the others. I think Shay's just arrived, which is cool.
Yeah. Welcome, Shay. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Outstanding. Hi. So yeah, so we were just taking a look at the UI, playing around, sending some sats to grandma, all that fun stuff.
That's good. That's the goal. Hopefully grandma can use this when it's finished.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that Shay was telling me about earlier that I found most exciting was the idea of building on like additional like chat bots and things onto it, so that this could become a wallet where you basically talk to it to execute operations, right? Like remittances or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of possibility for different things that could be built into chatbots, and also just having a wallet like this where you have effectively an online identity attached to it, where you can spin up as many identities as you want. There's also potential for logging into websites through a convenient manner, and having direct payment interactions with them, single click purchases anywhere you want. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty excited about all the different things that can be done with this. I can't even imagine what all is possible.
So one thing that this kind of reminds me of is Jabber. How similar is this to Jabber?
So the architecture is very similar. It's basically Jabber with payments added to it that are using Bitcoin Cash. But the main difference there is that you don't need a particular service provider, because your identity is attached to your Bitcoin Cash address rather than some username at whatever Jabber service provider. And so you don't need any centralized moderators. And it's also possible to move your identity across service providers. Let's say you don't like the relay server that I'm providing, you can just export all your messages and upload them somewhere else, update the key server network to say, hey, I want to receive messages somewhere else now. And it's as simple as that. Whereas with Jabber, it's still like email, where you're kind of stuck with a particular provider. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That can be
like
hard.
Jabber, yeah. Like if I have George at my free Jabber server, and then I'm like, that dies or whatever, basically that identity is lost, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the Jabber internal architecture at this point, but
in this case, it wouldn't be. I would
No.
be in full control.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, is by attaching payments and the public key cryptography to all of this, you end up with a censorship resistant platform for communication and transferring money, and that puts the user back in control of their online identity and communications, at least so much as it depends on them communicating through this platform, and what kind of services we can build out that make use of this. So yeah, that's the goal. We're finishing up writing a white paper about our motivations for why we're doing this and sort of how we solve those problems. And that's basically it for me, is I want to put users back in control of their online communication and their online identity. And in order to do that, it needs to not have your identity needs to be not managed for you by somebody like Google online. And in order to make that possible, you need an anti-abuse mechanism that's cryptocurrency that prevents that. I mean, this is the vision of Hal Finney when he was talking about RPOW. Is essentially we use these RPOW tokens to prevent people from abusing all these online communications and help us sort through what's valuable and not. Well, if you really take a step back, Bitcoin's just a name for the actual RPOW system that ended up working. Like, you produce a Bitcoin through doing proof of work. So the Bitcoin was originally created through proof of work, and then that Bitcoin's reusable. So it's just a name for an RPOW token. And then this system is just trying to build out his vision and all of the things that he thought would result from that. And maybe it doesn't make sense. I've got some criticism that why would I want to pay to message someone? That's not so much that you want to pay to message someone, as that you want to get paid to receive messages, and
Yeah.
maybe you value somebody's attention and you want them to actually read your message, so you attach a small payment to prove that you're not just a person that's spamming everyone.
That was one of my initial reactions too. And I probably told you this. I was like, but who's going to pay to send a chat message?
Yeah,
But the thing is, I think you have to, like, I think now that I've thought about it more, like, you have to think bigger. Like, it's like there's money in circulation, you know, and it's not that big of a deal. And if you have to send the message, like, then, you know, it can be a small amount anyway. You know, it's just like loading up your account. Like you buy in the developing world, like you buy cell phone minutes, you know, you just load it up so you can start, you know, having airtime and whatnot.
And as Hal Finney pointed out, like if the tokens are reusable, when we're talking back and forth, we're not losing the total amount. And the only time you're losing money is if you're sending stuff to people that they don't want to respond to. Right? Like it gives you a strong incentive not to just spout nonsense all the time at people. Because if they don't respond, like you're spending money. Maybe those people will learn to increase the value of their communications. But how Finney pointed out that like if you're exchanging these back and forth, you're not having to burn all this money to produce new tokens, because you're getting back everything, right? There's a reciprocal relationship there between peer-to-peer communications, but for broadcast communications, you got to spend a lot of money. And so the only thing you're losing there is the fee to miners, which is very, very small on Bitcoin Cash. And that's why we're building it on top of Bitcoin Cash.
I think it's good to know as well. We are essentially paying for these services anyway, because you're paying with your privacy and you're paying your data to the centralized services. It's just it's much more explicit here, and you get to decide how you do it.
Although I don't think most people care or realize that much. Like I think we have to recognize mainstream audience doesn't care that much, so they may not switch based on that. But we can come up with other things to get them to switch, and then they get the side benefit of greater privacy.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that there's a potential for privacy-minded individuals who want control over their own identities to sort of be a intolerant minority in this case, and like hook other people into using the platform. You know, like I'll use it. I probably won't use Telegram anymore after this is in a state where I can do group chats, which is important to me. And I have mobile, so I can talk to other developers. But there's also the potential here to pay people to use it, which is, you know, that's the main incentive that people follow. And if we can convince the investors in Bitcoin Cash, the main holders and miners and whatnot, that this is a way to drive adoption and increase the price of Bitcoin Cash, I think there's a lot of potential to just pay people to use the thing initially. But not only that, I think there's a potential to make money off of paying people to use it, right? Because you're paying them when you send a message. And there is some value to those messages and the people's attention. I don't know what the exact price is, but people are already sending op return messages on Bitcoin Cash. They like send you 10 cents to an address they know is used, and they hope you go to a block explorer and like look at the use my exchange, whatever thing. That's definitely happened to me a few times where I'm like, why do I have an extra 10 cents in my wallet? I'm like, what the hell is this? Go look at like there's
happens a lot
there
on Steam.
Yeah,
actually.
so I don't know if that like is easy to identify in Steam or not, but if you have a wallet like this, it'll actually show up. Whereas I don't think any other wallet right now actually supports displaying the message. And so if you can sort of capitalize on that by, like, for example, having a Google AdWords account, sending out messages for a small fee, and potentially like, right, you're making money off of advertising in USD, you're buying Bitcoin Cash, and you're like paying people to look at some of this. Obviously, there isn't going to be no advertising on a platform like this, but there's like some key differences with the advertising that would happen on here. It's like it needs to be higher value. Two, you control your identity and your level of privacy with that. You can have 5 identities. You don't get like, you don't end up getting profiled across all of the identities that you have due to the way it works. If you don't want to, it really simplifies your management of different parts of your life and like who you want to know what about you. And I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
you have a recurring idea that's really interesting, which is monetizing people's attention with something like AdWords, and then turning that into Bitcoin Cash and paying them into Bitcoin Cash as a way to onboard people to Bitcoin Cash. And I think that's a brilliant line of thought, that needs to be, definitely needs, there are a lot of implications that could come out of that we need to think about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like mining, for example, and a lot of other businesses that are built on Bitcoin Cash, if you zoom out a little bit, they try to get people that have Bitcoin Cash already to spend it so that they can convert it into USD and pay their bills. This is actually bad for the price of the coin. Right? Like if you are an investor and you want the price of Bitcoin Cash to go up, you want people to get more Bitcoin Cash and to hold it. So you want a business that takes in USD and produces Bitcoin Cash, which is the exact opposite of what most people are doing right now and what most people are focused on. That's not to say that if you don't provide like services that are only available in Bitcoin Cash, you won't get people to buy Bitcoin Cash to go and then use the service. But there's very few situations where that would be the case, where somebody would need a cryptocurrency to go and buy some product online. I think we know what those unique services are, but they're not necessarily interested in going on Open Bazaar and buying someone's like handcrafted soap. There's other things that they want if they're going to purchase it through cryptocurrency, and that market's large, but it's not. It still requires a certain bar for people that know how to do all the necessary things to do that operation. Like they got to go get Coinbase or something, buy some cryptocurrency, and then move it to a wallet and like download Open Bazaar and do all of these things rather than download a wallet, start receiving money, maybe use it to buy something later, maybe buy some more because it turns out to be useful.
Hey, so we have a couple of questions in the chat from Anthony. Is the fee amount to send a message adjustable? Is it set by the receiver?
So right now, I don't know, Harry, do you want to answer this or?
Yeah, sure. So you can adjust how much you attach to each message. Each message you decide how much you attach, and the receiver will decide whether they want to see it under a certain fee. So let's say you are Bill Gates, you probably don't want to listen to messages with like a few pennies attached to them. You'd want to, you have, your attention is very expensive. You want to filter out the lower messages. But if you're talking to your friend, you may want to get rid of that threshold completely, and you can talk to each other for very little or free. So the receiver sets the threshold of what they want to see, and the sender decides how much they want to send.
So it is possible to set the fee to 0?
Yeah, it is.
It would still, we're still kind of working out some of those details. Ideally, the goal here is to produce or to inhibit distributed denial of service attacks or flooding particular users' inboxes, right? And so we don't want to, it's not that I care that payments are attached to messages, right? That isn't the goal. It's not that we want to make payments be attached. It's that we want to not receive an excessive volume of messages. And without having to have somebody, moderate the platform and ban users that are spamming, right? Like if we just make it cost money, we don't need people to do that.
You could also do something that once you've got a rapport with somebody, you've got a trust line there, you could sync your fee down. Whereas when you're talking to strangers, you can have a very high threshold. of what gets into your inbox.
Because really the whole system, like the your Telegram, your WhatsApp, your Google Chat, whatever, all of those work on the centralized model where you have somebody you can go to report accounts, right, and get them off the system, right, or they're actively looking. That's how that
both,
system
right?
that's how
And
that system works. And that's why it's unlimited free messaging, right? Because that's the limiting factor, is they have their eye out. But on this system, in order to not have that centralized moderation and, hey, you got to show us your driver's license and stuff like that, there the whole idea is pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's the key limiting factor, right? That keeps things from going off the rails in Stamp.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like you said, all of these moderated systems are attached to valuable resources, like your email, which it's hard to like, I got to do a bunch of CAPTCHAs or whatever in order to get one. So there's some amount of work you have to get an email that will then get banned, or a phone number which you have to pay for, right? And then you've provided them information that can be used to correlate those identities across multiple services. So
I think we're seeing this kind of problem on read.cache, actually, because he keeps trying out different schemes to keep the spam at bay. Like first it was no posts that have been, have content that was anywhere else. Then he abandoned that, and now I don't even understand what it is now, but now there's a flood of spam comments on articles. Just people who are like, "Hey, great article," just one after another. And,
Oh, we are actually past that. Actually, I think at least
really?
having new ideas, or I mean, read.cache. I think yes, there because it's now personalized, and you don't just get the points for that just for commenting or something. And I mean, but you are right. He has to work, and he has to check this out, check it out every month. Like, okay, now what did we break now, or which aspect of it is not? Yeah, but it's not that it's like full of spam or something. I wouldn't go that far. It's there are people trying out, essentially trying out to get, of course, money with commenting and stuff like this. But it's also it was also incentivized, so I wouldn't even call it spam. It's not like there are like 100 bots right now on read.cache writing something. It's like somebody says, okay, I get money for commenting, or I will comment, and I will be a nice guy. So it's I actually, this is one kind, is actually going back to this Stamp idea of having this use case for Bitcoin Cash, where you don't buy stuff with it like you would buy stuff with dollars, but you buy your advertisement that you send to someone. You pay for the advertisement that you pay someone else now looks at it, because he really is incentivized. So well, back to Stamp. I like the idea. So I really wanted to go back to this point where you are saying that you actually don't go back to dollars, but have a use case for why you should actually have BCH, not to buy, like you said, like hand cream, but to actually be able to make direct advertisement. And instead of paying somebody like $2 million and then trying to get 4 million out of it or whatever, you actually would pay for the advertisement directly to the, like, maybe $1 million, but directly to anybody who has watched this, and everybody, like 1 million people getting $1. So it sounds actually pretty good.
I almost even think that doing something, I mean, that's how it works directly, but I almost think, you have the ability through something like Stamp to immediately register someone for payments, Like they don't need to go to a website and then put in a credit card number or link their bank account or something in order for them to receive a payment from you. So you can even do things like send out an ad where you pay everybody 5 cents or 1 cent. And then for the people that actually click on it, they're entered into something where they have the potential to earn a lot more, right? So instead of $1, now it becomes a significant amount of money that they can potentially get out of looking at this advertisement. People tend to be motivated more by a probability of earning a lot of money than they are by earning a small amount of money, right? So I think, not to discount your idea, I'm just providing another alternate view of like a way that it would be cheap to get people onboarded. And I had a brief thought too when you were both talking about read.cash. As sort of the libertarian anarcho-capitalist viewpoint is often justified by this concept of the economic calculation problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're both familiar with it. The idea that like no centralized, person has enough information to, create a supply chain that would function and meet everybody's needs. But this leads to the idea that money is actually distributed consent, like a distributed problem solving tool, right? It allows people to communicate their preferences of where resources should be allocated in the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by prices. Yeah.
By prices, yeah. And so another reason that I really I will try to get people to use this and use it myself, I'm even willing to pay people to use it, is that this provides a way to direct where people should spend their attention, right? It changes the way in which people will communicate. It's not just as simple as attaching payments to things and an anti-spam mechanism. It also creates stronger ties between particular individuals based on how they value one another and the communication that they're providing one another.
That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. I was thinking also people could sign up, like if there was a critical mass, people could sign up and say, voluntarily what they were interested in. And let's say it's, an indie filmmaker wants to release a movie just to people who have X, Y, and Z interests. He can very effectively spend his advertising budget to drop it right in on the right people. And those people can get paid, essentially cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, that's the real contrast between something like Facebook. The advertisers are paying Facebook. Here, there's not necessarily a middleman there. The advertisers will pay you directly, and you are earn money for doing that kind of thing.
So we have another question from Anthony in the chat. Have you thought about how to make it mobile friendly? Could the cryptographic identity somehow be delegated to a server, like delegated proof of stake, so that you don't need to store the keys on the phone?
I'm not quite, in order to delegate something, you still need a key to do the signing. So you would still have to have something on your phone. Right now, the model is that all of the devices share a hot wallet, so they share a key. I won't go too much into the details, but there's ways to revoke that key and maintain your identity if it was to be compromised off of one device. We're planning for the fact that eventually a key is going to be compromised if it's on all these devices. So there is some idea of like delegating that to a service where you could get assistance and like revoking and reestablishing your identity. It's interesting. You could run a server where you had different keys on different devices and hook up to some other service that maintains a proxy for you. If you wanted to do that, I don't know that necessarily solves the problem though, because you just have I guess it reduces the surface area of devices that you could end up with compromised, have your key compromised on. But I haven't really thought about that much.
With regards to a mobile implementation, I think we're reasonably close. It's not been like a massive priority because we're trying to get the protocol worked out, but the mobile implementation is pretty close. A few little things there, here and there, which will be good because obviously everybody uses mobile.
Outstanding. Another thing, you know, since Kusha and I are working on building out BCH Ignite as kind of a business factory, you could say, you know, what has the process been like for you guys to get from, you know, zero to where you are with Stamp now? You know, what challenges have you run into?
I'll let you take that one.
I mean, there's been a couple. I would say that the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem is pretty disjoint. There's not a lot of understanding between individuals, and I think that, you know, some of that's a consequence of the type of people that we've attracted. Like libertarians are very individualistic, and they're all very unique thinkers, and as a result, you don't see a lot of developers working together on the same things. And even when people are moving in the same directions, you end up with different implementations and not a lot of understanding of why things should be done in particular ways. There doesn't need to be any formalized proposal for these things, right? Like you don't need like an RFC process to develop a service on Bitcoin Cash, but having one benefits all of the developers. I can give like one example. Part of Stamp, part of the backend services, we developed a protocol for essentially pay per request on HTTP, where you try to put something to an endpoint, it gives you a BIP70 invoice, you pay the invoice, in return you get a JWT token, and you can use that to then access that endpoint. So it doesn't require you an account to use some API online. And this is sort of how you sign up for accounts and stuff. So your wallet has money, and then you can just use the relay server by buying an inbox with Bitcoin Cash. Another thing that we want to do is provide storage, because the relay server is a message queue essentially. And sometimes you just want to store a blob, right? And IPFS doesn't, there's no incentive for people to host IPFS blobs, so they can sort of disappear off the IPFS network. And so one of the things that we want to do is provide like an S3 or GCS proxy. So we could provide like storage.cashweb.io, and then your wallet can simply make a payment to that with Bitcoin Cash, get a JWT token, and then you can upload your blob, and then it's just stored on S3, and you can download it from there. And we just sort of act as an intermediary, right? And this provides a service that anyone could run and would be interoperable from any wallet, right? And it provides a standardized way for people to do these pay per requests and use Bitcoin Cash for it. But there's a couple of other people working on very similar ideas, but they're not working on them in a way that we could use them with Stamp, and they're not interested in kind of coming together and working on a specification that would meet everyone's requirements. And so there's like 5 different people writing a backend storage service where you can either pay Bitcoin Cash or something. One person's working on something extremely similar, but they're having it show a QR code that you then pay from your phone wallet, and then you get like a UI where you can upload a file. But it would be the abstraction there is sort of at the wrong level, it's better to have it at the API level. And then if you want to provide a UI on it, sure, you provide a JavaScript app on top that you can even serve from the API server. But that allows people to write other software that interacts with it. Whereas when you have this like form upload and this QR code shown and like this other stuff, like, yeah, you could write like a client around it that you could use from wallets, but it's a lot more work because you're dealing with non-standard ways of interacting with an HTTP API. So it's just sort of an unfortunate consequence of how people work in this space and sort of the personality types that are attracted to libertarianism. Instead of producing like one really good product, everybody sort of wants to do like their own one-man show. And you just can't make a good product by yourself. Like, you need help. Like, I'm so thankful that Harry is interested in like working on this with me. It would be great if we had other JavaScript developers, because Harry and I are not JavaScript front-end engineers. We're like bumbling through this. Like, it's surprised that we've made it able to look as good as it does.
Yeah, we need help, guys.
It is true. There is so much power in forming a team and being part of a team. But yeah, unfortunately, libertarians for the most part are like, all right, I'm going to buy 50 acres in Wyoming. I'm going to build a fence, and anybody who steps over it, you're going to get my shotgun.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then I think, the second problem that we've run into is a lot of people just don't see the value in what we're doing within the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. Like, they're focused on other problems. And I think, that kind of goes back to the libertarianism as well. Like, people are focused on trying to use this as a currency to buy things as sort of an alternative to USD, whereas Stamp is, it's like, that's not the focus. The focus is this completely different use case. And interestingly, like, when I live in the Bay Area and I work at a tech company and I have a lot of friends that are software engineers at tech companies, they don't care about crypto. But when I explain how Stamp works, they actually are very excited about it. They're very interested in it. I've installed more Bitcoin Cash wallets, that's what Stamp is, for people than I ever have for any other wallet. And it's unfortunate because it's on testnet right now. So people, that don't, it's convenient for me. It doesn't cost me anything to help onboard them to Bitcoin Cash testnet. But, once we move to mainnet, like, I probably have an additional 20 users immediately.
I think that's one thing. Oh, go ahead. You were going to say something, Harry?
I just wanted to say it's
Kosha?
Good to know.
Yeah, and it actually does produce quite a lot of volume as well. It's not something that's not just running in the background, barely doing anything. We actually create reasonably big blocks on testnet, just chatting away with each other. So it's it does create economic activity.
And that's one thing you. Oh, sorry, Kush.
sorry. But it's not even like a spam transaction or something. It's real use, and it makes total sense to do this. And it's actually like, right now I'm hearing this, like you're saying, I was interested, but I thought this is some kind of secure messaging app or something that like it's encrypted. That's all I thought. And yeah, you have this Stamp thing. I just with this talk, I realized how much more is behind that, and even behind the idea of stamping messages.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot what I wanted to say, so no problem.
The other thing is, this actually didn't start as a chat client. It started as a way for wallets to message each other directly without a moderated, like a moderator in between, and actually support offline messages. So you can like post them to this message queue and then pull them down later. So the messages are just general structured blobs, and that allows wallets to send all the offline metadata they need to do like 2 of 3 multi-sigs, to do Schnorr signatures, interactive multi-sig Schnorr signatures, one of the things right now is does stealth transactions with some ability to do obfuscated amounts by splitting over multiple transactions. So it can like use one amount, create 5 or 6 transactions, bundle them up together in one encrypted payload and send it to another stamp wallet. So then when people look on chain, they don't know what the total amount was anymore. Only the person that has the actual like bulk set of transactions knows what the total amount is. And there's a lot of other things that wallets could do when they're talking directly to each other. So that was actually the original idea, and like it still supports all of that. It's just sort of, there's all these other interesting use cases that kind of fall out of it. One was just obviously sending a message to another person with the wallet. And so right now that's what it supports, messages and these payments. But there's tons of other things that we want to do.
Yeah, if you actually have a look at the specifications for the key server and the relay server, you wouldn't really guess that it was a messaging app because it is very general at that low level. You know, it's definitely able to support like loads of other applications. It's just like Shammah said, it's just messaging is the low-hanging fruit that we can just do immediately and show off the protocol.
Yeah, so it's like it's much more for tech-savvy server hosts or something or like group hosts or any forum hosts or any kind of thing where you can just put the backend. It's not about even like trying to tell them to use Bitcoin Cash or something. It's really just telling them use this app. It uses Bitcoin Cash, but actually you just have to use this app and it does everything you need because of these micro transactions, let's say, empower or allow to do. That's super nice.
In a sense, Stamp kind of blazes a new trail, because whenever I've thought of a wallet before, I thought of money first, but Stamp puts communication first. And if you think about, you walk into like a marketplace, like a physical marketplace, which I think is somewhere that we, want to be, but both marketplaces, be it physical or virtual, communication has to happen, and a lot, before actually money changes hands. So I think, from a high level point of view, it makes so much sense to put communication first, and it opens up so many other possibilities. And I think that Stamp, is kind of, creating a new paradigm there. Instead of just this static HODL wallet, it's something else. It's like the next evolution.
I want people in their Bitcoin Cash wallet because I want people using their Bitcoin Cash wallet. And so if I put communications first in it, like how much time do we spend on Telegram?
Mm-hmm.
We should be in a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and we should be getting other people to be spending their time in a Bitcoin Cash wallet and providing those like fundamental features that people need, right? Like I spend more time in Telegram than I spend in a web browser. Probably. It's probably pretty close. I'd have to look at like the screen analysis time on my phone, but I suspect it's Telegram more.
And we get spammed. And we get spammed on top of that. And like there's, I was thinking about this. And just it's all of this faucet thing. It's really. I just thought about onboarding people to use this messenger. Even if you want to get them into your group, you advertise again. They get their first 500 sets of Bitcoin Cash by getting a message from a developer or from anyone else who is inviting them. This sounds so much more interesting than anything else.
I hope. I hope. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It might not pan out, but I feel strongly enough about it to like at least get it in a place where people can use it and see if it makes sense as an economic idea.
Also communication first, George. What you said, like everyone who has a wallet wants to have a memo. It's not that we yet now that this is the only thing, but this is like the first hint at communication in the wallet or so. So it's even like even the normal user actually asked us asked the wallet producers to be able to write something to the person who's receiving the money. So I think this already hints that that the communication has to be focused on.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm pretty excited about that's really simple to implement, we just haven't done it yet, is sending an invoice to someone, like a line item invoice, and you just click pay on the user's end, right? Like, and then they actually can send back a essentially a notarized payment, and they get a receipt, and you could export that for your business automatically. I don't know that kind of complexity needs to be in like the general user wallet, but if you're running a business and this can support your business case, like I send invoices occasionally to people for consulting work, and it's like, here's this PDF invoice that I sent you with a Bitcoin Cash address, and there's like all this work that goes into it, and then like I have to maintain some other books. I can't, like, all of this should be happening in my Bitcoin Cash wallet. I don't know why it's not.
Absolutely. Anthony has a follow-up. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that after you solve the problem of having a distributed identity kind of registry, a lot of other problems become very easy immediately after. So for example, the stealth payments stuff, without a key server infrastructure, it's actually a very tough problem. You have to usually do a massive scan over the whole blockchain to try and preserve your anonymity there. But with Stamp, we implemented it in a couple of days, and you don't need to do anything. It's just like press a button. You sent 2 stealth payments earlier. So what was a very difficult problem then just becomes immediately easy. But yeah.
So Anthony asks, it would be nice if you could store the primary keys to your identity on a secure device, such as a hardware wallet, and then delegate more ephemeral keys for the devices you use on a day-to-day basis. What do you think? What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely, that's already designed in. It's just not in the wallet right now. So essentially, you'd have like a master key that generates an identity in such a way that you can rotate out the identity key, but still maintain the same. Like the key is changing, right? But your identity in Stamp is staying the same. Key rotation is a big problem. Like everyone across the whole tech industry rotates their keys. It's a very important process to do. You can't do that in Bitcoin at all right now. In fact, I don't know any cryptocurrency that supports this. But by having a key server, you can update the actual public key attached to the address. So you can provide a Bitcoin Cash address, and then within that payload that's advertised, provide a different key and a different address to actually communicate to. And if that one gets compromised, you just switch out the main one that's actually offline. And so that's something that needs to get built. That's not how it works right now, just because it's a more infrastructure that needs to be done in terms of working on the wallet, and then also supporting how the UX should work for a user. This is intended to be super easy. So it might be that for like a easy onboarding doesn't provide that level of security for your key. And then if you are an advanced user, then you have a lot of money, right? Because the security trade-offs are based on like, how much money do you got to lose? You got $10 in this wallet? Are you really gonna like deal with having a cold wallet and delegate out authority and all this other stuff? If you have a lot of money, then it becomes an issue. But the main way I want to solve sort of this problem, I do think it's important to be able to recover your identity if you lose your hotkey. So that's like very important regardless. But as far as like maintaining your money, revoking allows people to not send you money if you've lost the key, right? So that solves one problem. The other problem being losing money if the key is compromised, money you already have in it. And that I intend to solve by just in the wallet. If you know, like a normal, you say you're at 7-Eleven, right? You're 7-Eleven owner or your gas station owner or whatever. You just don't keep that much money in the cash register, right? the the name slipped me, but the armed the armed guards in the bulletproof truck come around once in a while, and they collect all your extra cash and take it to the bank where it's safe. And so you can easily do that in a wallet. Like, you provide your hardware wallet address, right? You put in your XPub from your hardware wallet or whatever else, and then when more than one BCH accumulates in your wallet, the excess is just automatically sent there. Something to that effect.
That's a great idea. I was actually commenting that to, maybe Koshik said that to me, that's how it should work. I don't remember, because we're discussing, wallet design and different things also. So that's a really interesting idea. Well, I know you guys are short on time. You've given us about 55 minutes. So I just want to, start to wrap up. And, to those of you who are watching, a link to download Stamp is in the chat. It's also in the description of this video. Here's what the wallet looks like. You can type your message here. So how can, I think my connection went bad there for a minute. How can people help you guys with Stamp?
If they're a software engineer, they could, send some patches. The backends are all in Rust. The front end is in JavaScript using Quasar. I'd love to have some people, get in there. It's a pretty simple project. It's like any other front end JavaScript app. A lot of the internals of how the messaging and the networking works is another sort of layer, and you don't need to know that. So if people are new developers and want to get involved and know JavaScript, could definitely use some help there. And then if you want to donate, that's also extremely helpful.
Where can they donate?
There's that address that is in the, there's a first message there, like, please help us, on every chat that's opened. I can also provide a link.
Also just using it and telling us what you'd like and how, some opinions on the UI layouts and stuff like that. It's also useful.
Yeah, I'm hoping that once we have group chat, that people just sort of want to use it. There's just not a, the need to use a chat, like an app like this, is proportional to the number of people using it. And if your friends aren't all using it yet, then you're not going to be in there. So I think maybe moving some like group chats off Telegram in there would encourage that. This is the donation address. I'm going to put that out.
And I'm also putting my Stamp contact in the video description in case anybody wants to add me. And where did you put the address?
I put it in the chat here.
Okay, so I'll put that also into the video description.
Yeah, we're trying to get a release out every week. So there's lots of movement and lots of interesting new features coming through regularly. Outstanding.
So are you guys on? So I don't think there's a Stamp account on Twitter, but people can follow Micro President on Twitter, right? And Harry, are you on Twitter?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's
maybe I'll create a Stamp account. There is a Telegram chat room that I've been primarily using.
Oh yeah, Stamp community group, and it's at t.me/Stamp chat, and so I'll put that in the description of this video as well, for anybody who wants, and in the chat for anybody who wants to get in on that. All right, so any final words, guys? Anything else?
Yeah, I had one thought that just came up, is that another thing that's important to note is the protocol and the specification we're trying to put out for any wallet to use. This is part of the reason this I think will be valuable, is the ability to enable a lot of people to compete with one another against something like Facebook Messenger. If other people want to create wallets that interoperate, they can do so. They don't need to go and like change the backend servers to add like new features to their wallet. You know, they can add a different entry type in a message, and their wallet can support that, and sort of had an ad hoc standard. Eventually, wallets will sort of coalesce on a way to do stealth payments where everybody understands each other, or send pictures or files or whatever the thing is. And I want it to be a very open process that is also unmoderated. So the backends are being designed with relatively general use case in mind, and then whatever wallets want to implement either wallet-to-wallet communication or messaging or whatever they want can do so on top of that. You can run your own servers, etc. Like, there's nothing that depends on any centralized service or any centralized piece of code.
Outstanding. Yeah, I think it's so important now that we design systems where anybody can plug in, you know, and also ideally I'm aiming for systems that enable people to plug in and also profit. And I think Stamp, you know, definitely fits the bill there, because I don't think we're gonna scale up to you know, tens, hundreds of millions or billions of Bitcoin Cash users if we don't give everybody the right incentives. You know, people have to be highly incentivized. You know, it's like you said earlier about paying people to use it. You know, PayPal, to get to their position, if I remember correctly, they spent about $50 million on user incentives. You know, that's cheap. That's
It
cheap,
is,
right? Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a great call. Thank you so much, Shammah Chancellor, Harry Barber of the Stamp project. Look in the description here for full details. Thank you, my co-host Kusha. I'm George Donnelly, and all right, let's keep building Bitcoin Cash. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It was
Thank you
my
very much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See ya.